Hey Waffle Gang, I do hope you're well. My name is Mark and today we're checking out some more Reddit stories, and if you do love a Reddit story, why not consider hitting that like, subscribe, maybe that notification bell too, and let's crack on with today's first story. Much love, guys. Now, today's first story comes from our very own subreddit, r/Mark Narrations. If you have your own story, please feel free to go over there and share yours. This one is from a deleted user. It does have an update as well. And it said, am I the arsehole for telling the fiancé everything? So I, 29 female, have been single for 5 years. I decided to try dating again. I didn't know where to start. I downloaded a dating app. Huge mistake. I met what I thought to be a nice 25-year-old German man who we will call Steve. Well, Steve was nice. He texted all the time, called, sent videos, voice messages, FaceTime, texted during work/at night, in the morning, or at school. He added me on Instagram, sent reels, tagged me in stories, sent pictures of his family, played video games with me, was very attentive in conversations, had deep conversations. This went on for a month. Packages were sent back and forth, and then plans to see each other were getting brought up by him. Then suddenly, he didn't message for 3 days. He didn't seem to be online at all. I woke the morning of the third day, and he had messaged me with a picture of him in the hospital. Said he had an emergency, couldn't take his stuff. He missed talking with me and would message me soon. 7 days pass and nothing. I'm genuinely worried. I message his account in a game and I get a message back from his brother saying he was in a serious condition. Another week passes. Nothing. I'm confused at this point. I can sense something is weird. So I decide to look up Facebook. I hadn't really thought of it before as I don't use it and things genuinely seemed okay. Well, I definitely got my answers this way. The guy didn't have anything on private, and to my not so surprise, he has a fiancé. Not just any type of fiancé either, based on what I saw. They were childhood sweethearts. Like, I could tell I was the downgrade based on one glance. Of course, I'm pissed off because I just knew that opening my heart again was a bad idea. But outside of that, I'm extremely angry for this gorgeous Romanian girl with a degree, speaking multiple languages, looks to be an overall 8 out of 10. He told me that he had friends with benefits. He even sent a picture of her. Yep, you guessed it. It was his fiancée. And he had said, she is just empty-headed, and she knows once I find a girlfriend that it's over. We talked about it. This mofo comment rang through my head after I saw the truth. I placed myself in the girl's shoes and imagined the man I have loved told some random bitch on the other side of the globe that I was empty-headed. I would want to know about it, so I sent everything to her. I had not been able to get a hold of him to confront him with it. By the way, he had posted on Facebook that same day, so the whole hospital thing was bullshit. I was just being ghosted in a creative way. Anyway, this morning I received a message from him. He said, thanks for telling all the stuff, hope it made you feel better, and thus deleted and blocked me on everything. Now, I'm an empathetic person, which is why I get screwed over all the time. I felt bad for a second that maybe I shouldn't have told the girl. Not my business, not my circus, not my monkeys. But here's a list of things that make it to where I feel justified. He'd been messaging, calling, FaceTiming, sending pics so often. I'm not even sure when he was with his fiancée, who obviously they lived together. Her TikTok featured the same unique wall I saw in his pictures. 2. Upon discovering his Facebook, I realized he had sent me pictures of his family from his fucking proposal to his fiancée. I mean, seriously, who does that? 3. He went out of his way to manipulate a girl who is genuinely approaching the relationship with good intentions. I was feeling something while he was in a committed long-term relationship. 4. He called his fiancée empty-headed, told someone she was his friend with benefits, said that he felt nothing towards her. 5. Plans were being made to see each other. Was actually starting to put money aside to maybe go there. He told me he wanted to come here first and then I go there. He said in August. That sounded reasonable to me. Now in retrospect, that makes me wonder, would this dude actually have gotten on a plane to go cheat on his girl? Or was he playing it up for the show he was putting on for me? Regardless, what a dirtbag. So I guess, am I the arsehole for telling her? And of course, absolutely not the arsehole in this situation. I'm like you. When I think of situations, I try to put myself in whoever's shoes it is at the time, and you did exactly that and realized that you would want to know if you was being taken advantage of, cheated on in this way. She deserved to know what kind of person she was about to legally bind herself to. A Netflix documentary just popped up into my head that I watched where there was a similar thing going on. It was like, it turned out like some sort of phishing scam in the end, where the guy kept saying he was in hospital or there's people after him and stuff, and various things like that. For people to make up these stories, like the hospital story in this situation, and ghosting you and the manipulation afterwards, and then him being sarcastic afterwards, said it all really when it said, "Oh, thanks for telling." He doesn't care. Just proves that he's just more upset about being caught than remorseful of the situation. Hopefully this other woman has left him, and you've saved her years of marriage to someone who clearly doesn't respect her, and who knows how many other people this guy was doing this to, right? Like I say, I never know how people got time for these affairs like this. It's absolutely wild to me. I mean, I know it's not the point, but I just find that crazy. Love and affection says, not the arsehole, you did the right thing. He's only mad because the consequences have caught up to his actions. Sucks to suck. Limo says, I think that using dating apps could be the culprit of this scenario. Way too easy to lie and manipulate people from across the world. Also, being an empath. We tend to believe people and want them to be as good-hearted as we are. Opie replies saying, oh, for sure. I shouldn't have been on it to begin with. I knew better. I was just hopeful. When Instagram, texting, Discord, and video games were added to methods of communication, I let my guard down. I trusted it. Bro, this dude even asked me, do you trust me? I straight up said, I'm scared to, but I do. Talk about vulnerability. Another commenter says, not the arsehole, she deserved to know and make an informed decision about whether or not she wants to stay. Screw him. Do not feel bad. He played stupid games. And OP said, you're right. Play stupid games, win stupid prizes. I mean, I want to post screenshots of just how far this guy went with the conversation. He talked about wanting kids, his relationship with his father, his brother. I mean, he was really engaged into whatever the fuck that was. I'm trying to wrap my head around the psychology of this kind of guy. Why waste your time talking to some broken girl on the other side of the world with zero chance of sex due to the distance, while you have a gorgeous high school sweetheart at home? Like, have some self-respect. God damn. So OP did come in with a brief update and said, so I log into one of my games this morning. I have a message from Steve. Steve proceeds to tell me that him and his fiance are in an open relationship, and everything else that he said was pure truth. He went as far to say 98% was true. And he proceeded to ask me for the package that I was going to send, as he wanted a reminder of me. Y'all, I cannot with this. I apparently do not have the mental capacity to understand what in the world this dude is thinking. Anyway, give me some good responses. The sassier, the better. Thanks in advance. The top response to this one was just block him and move on, which is absolutely the right way to go about it. Some people suspecting a romance scam on this one. Stigley says you're like Pac-Man without power pills. About to be ghosted. Sigma Experience comes in and says send him a bag of dicks. Danko from the North says you could send him a book about narcissism, or tell him you are about to ship him one. The only kind of like sassy thing I've got is like, if you was ever going to send it, I agree with the comments, don't send it, let him sit there and stew if it's not a romance scam or something along those lines. But the sassy in my head said, the only thing I'm sending you is the screenshot of this conversation to your fiance. She'd get a kick out of your open relationship story. But in the end, just absolutely block this guy. Bad news all around, doesn't deserve any more of your time. And OP did respond to the comments and said, thank you all so much, really. I haven't dated in 5 years due to a long-term relationship that went very sour. This was the first person I talked to in all those years. I was feeling really shitty about this. It definitely turned me off the dating world. However, all your comments made me feel so much better. Thank you. And I just want to finish it on by saying, you know, don't let this manipulative arsehole sour you on dating entirely. I think you handled it great. I think it was incredible in the way that you warned his fiance. Your instincts were spot on, and you worked him out. You literally, if she left him, which was her choice, but you might have just saved another woman from marrying this arsehole. Again, if it wasn't like a romance scam or something like those along those lines. But what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And let's move on to another story. Now, our next story, it comes from Background Reason 919 from the Am I the Arsehole Here subreddit. And it says, am I the arsehole here for telling my new work colleague that she has no right to control our office habit? And there is a few trigger warnings on this one of bullying, religious discrimination, controlling behavior, accusations of sexual harassment, body shaming, and ableism as well. So if you do want to skip the story, please feel free to do so. Timestamps are always down in the description and along the timeline below. Thank you. I, 35 male, have been working in this office for 3 years. We recently hired a new girl, 25 female, and she sits diagonally in front of me so I can see her at my desk and vice versa. We're about 1 meter apart. She's been working for 3 weeks and has been trying to control our office habit based on her liking. Here are the issues that has been happening and what triggered me to do what I did. 1. I have an unhealthy eating habit and snacking a lot during work. She mentioned twice, jokingly, said how I tempted her for eating cakes and how I can stay skinny even though I eat like a pig. I offered her some. She refused, saying she's trying to lose weight. Fine. I stopped snacking on my desk, but other colleagues and I still have lunch at desks when we are quite busy. Then by the end of the first week, she reported to HR and says people should not have lunch or eat at the desk because it can be unhygienic and the crumbs might fall into the keyboard, etc. and attract bugs. She also mentioned how she was annoyed by me eating ice cream, cakes, bread, etc. during work hours, and it disturbed her because she's trying hard to lose weight. So HR sent us all emails, and now everyone in the office, everyone can no longer eat anything on our desk. 2. On her second day, she complained to the girl who sits next to her, Jane, was using a very strong perfume and the scent nauseated her. Jane did wear strong perfume indeed, but it wasn't that horrible. All of us could tolerate Jane, and suddenly because this new girl couldn't tolerate her, and Jane was the one who has to change. 3. Between our team, 6 of us collect $10 weekly to buy lottery. One of the guys in our team is Muslim and he doesn't gamble, so he never participated, but yet he never discouraged or criticized us. We offered this girl to join us and she criticized us about how gambling is bad and says it's very unprofessional to be collecting money to gamble in the office environment. She actually brought this to HR, arguing the harm and risk, and if we happened to win millions of dollars and did a massive exodus, it would be harmful for the company. Luckily, HR didn't do anything about it. 4. The Muslim guy prays twice a day in our stationery room. Unfortunately, we don't have a praying room in the office. He has got his praying mat and some other stuff in our stationery room, and it has been there since I started working. She suggested him to move it somewhere as he shouldn't put his personal belongings in a common area. She told the other girl in our team that the old mat was not pleasant to look at. Okay, what happened today? Our desk layout is shaped like an L, and my desk is next to a glass window. In our team, there are 7 people excluding her, and all of us are sun haters. We always pull down the shade, and especially the guys sitting on the other corner. They said if the window is opened, the sun would glare on their computer screen in the afternoon, and making them can't see their screen very well. This girl has been complaining how our corner is too dark and gives bad vibes, and she needs to have the shades opened up. She mentioned how the sun will make people happier and increase productivity. I can't stand her anymore. So I stood up from my desk and said, I didn't yell, "Look, insert her name, you have been here for less than a month, but you keep telling us what to do. We've been changing our habit to accommodate you, but then you keep pushing things. You can't keep telling us what to do. I think the best thing is for you to move to sit where the HR people sit, because it's always bright there, and you're closer with them than to us anyway." She then said I hate women and I'm bullying her, and she is telling our manager and HR about this. Am I the arsehole here? Did I bully her? Is it acceptable for a new hire to tell older colleagues to do these things? Now, if I'm being totally honest, there was a couple of things at the start of this I thought, semi-reasonable depending on how you're handling it. I get people that have strong sensitivity to smells, etc., and wouldn't want to be sat next to a strong perfume all day. I think that's reasonable in my opinion. I've had work colleagues in the past with strong smells that get headaches pretty quickly, but They've approached it in a certain way where they say, oh, do you mind not doing that because it gives me a headache? And everything's dealt with nicely. The eating at the desk it's a grey one for me because, you know, if the desk is a mess and it's covered in food or whatever, I get it. If it's attracting bugs, I get it. There's some work cultures that are like that. But the longer this went on, it became obvious that she's the issue here. She isn't talking to anyone about this. She's just running to HR every single time. And it came across as like pure control freak behavior. Not quite the same, but I had a colleague similar to this. She was a receptionist at the place we worked. Didn't have any authority over anyone, but seemed to insert herself in every single department. Like she seemed to rotate through the day. She would come in and try to micromanage what you was doing. Like we had two of these big sort of just massive printers, you know, office printers, and they had counters on them of how much you printed throughout the day, etc. And she would come in and say, so how much have we printed today? That's like, why? And she would note it down and walk off. So I don't know who she was reporting this to. As far as I know, no one asked her to do this. I remember when I first started at that company and I was stood in the area where I worked, and this guy walked in with a bike and he had a yellow raincoat on, you know, traditional yellow raincoat, and he was drenched. I said, morning, you're right, mate, or something like that. And the receptionist was the other side and she saw me and she gave me this evil glare. And I was like, what did I do? Anyway, this guy comes in, he drives off and he goes upstairs. And then she came over to me and she said, do you know who that is? And I was like, no, should I? She was like, that's Pete, the owner of the company. You need to address him appropriately. I was like, what? But she was a strange person. Commenter says to OP, I would weaponize her criticism of the prayer mat as discrimination and get HR to lubricate the catapult. OP says, I did mention this to the Muslim guy, but he's chill and he doesn't care. A downvoted commenter says, completely agree with the new girl except for number 4. Eat away from your desk. Gamble in your own time. Avoid strong perfumes. These are standard office rules in most places. Number 4 is ethically dodgy. A workplace should make reasonable adjustments to accommodate faith practice. Opie says, okay, fair point. We collect the money during our break on Wednesday and buy them at a convenience store downstairs. The lottery draw happens every Thursday night, so it doesn't interfere with our work at all. The Muslim guy never complains or asks for a prayer room. He's the only person who prays in the whole office, so I guess nobody ever raised the issue. Another commenter says, not the arsehole. I would never normally suggest this, but since she went there first, go to HR and report that she called you a pig. That's the one thing here that could get her in trouble, because technically that was bullying. Otherwise, good luck. She sounds horrible. Opie says, nah, I can't do that. Jane actually started that first. She always says I eat like a pig. Jane and I are actually good friends. I didn't want her to get an opportunity to drag Jane down, but thanks though. Commenter says, just imagine being trapped in a room for 8 hours every day and expected to concentrate and work, or having to listen to people eat right next to me. Fills me with so much rage and dread. I don't give a fuck if you're busy. Go eat in the kitchen and then come back. A short break won't kill you, for fuck's sake. Opie says, well, all of us eat in our desks. We have been doing it for years. She actually never complained about noise. She complained that I eat when she cannot eat because she's trying to lose weight. And she doesn't like people to eat at their desk because she thinks it's unhygienic. Anyway, HR is spoken. So OP comes in with her first update and says, small, not so irrelevant update. I was just talking about this with my colleague who works downstairs in the storage room. I don't often go there, but this new girl has to go there every day as part of her job. And he told me a story. In my company, we hired a guy with Down syndrome to do some restocking. Let's call him Bob. Apparently a couple of days ago, an older lady who works in the kitchen was wearing a Pikachu apron. When Bob saw the kitchen lady, he yelled Pikachu, then ran and touched the apron. So he would have accidentally touched her breast too. According to my colleague, the older lady just laughed and didn't make much of a fuss. The new girl witnessed this and said Bob has sexually harassed the old lady and she would report him to HR. Lol. She complained that Bob's behavior is very inappropriate and unsafe. So OP comes in with another update and says, I'm not a native English speaker, and I now understand that it's not appropriate to use the word girl when referring to a 25-year-old woman. I didn't realize this before. Thanks for the heads up, Reddit. I showed this post to 2 of my colleagues, and they encouraged me, and I also felt it was necessary to clarify a few things to be fair and to respond to some of your questions and comments. She actually complained about a lot of other things that I didn't mention earlier, mostly because I didn't think they were very interesting, and honestly, a few of them even benefited us. 1. Okay, so apparently wearing perfume at the workplace is not allowed. Got it. I guess Jane's just been lucky that no one's ever complained before. 2. Her comment about the Muslim guy's prayer mat was more about the way it was positioned in the storage room. Everything else is neatly arranged in wooden cupboards, but in one corner there's a small table with a prayer mat and some religious items. She felt it looked out of place and thought personal items shouldn't be in public or shared areas. That said, the prayer mat has been there since I started, and no one in the office has raised an issue about it for the past 3 years. 3. About the skinny or eats like a pig comments. I'm totally fine with it. It's just part of our internal banter, and I'm the only person who gets body shamed, if you want to call it that way, and I do allow people to do so. I don't comment on other people's bodies or eating habits, and no one is being body shamed. 4. There's no HR policy that says we can't eat at our desks, and nobody has complained about it until now. Everyone does it, even in other teams like IT. The new hires issue doesn't seem to be about allergies or food smells. Her complaint was she's trying to lose weight and doesn't like watching people eat. She never brought up concerns about computer damage or bugs until she took it to HR. 5. Yes, she's currently on a 6-month probation period. This is not her first job, but her second job. Apparently worked on that company for 2 years. The first job was in a different city, and she praises that company a lot. 6. I didn't mention this earlier because it kind of worked out in my favor, but one of my colleagues asked me to include it. On her second day, she asked our manager to move a cabinet closer to her desk. That cabinet used to be on the other side of the room. I had to walk over every time I needed to use it. So now it's more convenient for me. But of course, the people who used to sit near it, including the colleagues who asked me to mention this, are pretty annoyed, since they use it just as much as she does. She never mentioned about mobility issues or anything like that. She just wants the cabinet to be close to her. Finally, our manager complies and gets the cabinet moved. 7. She complained about how the IT guy who sits behind her got a really loud ringtone. I personally too find it a bit annoying, but he doesn't often receive phone calls and it wasn't too bothersome for us. 8. She complained about how one of our colleagues was putting on headphones when working, and she disliked it when she has to tap on his shoulder when she needs to talk to him. She literally told him, "Do you mind not putting headphones on while we work? Because I don't want to keep tapping your shoulders every time I need to talk to you, and it is disrespectful towards the others," or something along those lines. We usually just send the message on MS Teams when we want to talk to him, and he's on headphones. He suggested her the same, but she said she doesn't want to. 9. She complained about one Filipino woman. I almost typed girl again here, lol, who brought a smelly lunch to work. Yes, I kind of agree with this complaint. To be fair, the Filipino woman actually didn't do this very often, and she usually has late lunch around 2 PM after people finish their lunch. A few of my colleagues and I also dislike it, but we thought nobody is perfect, and she doesn't bring that food often. We just put up with it. 10. Also, my colleague told me he heard how she criticized a few of our Asian colleagues for eating rice with a spoon instead of a fork. Why does this bother her? 11. She complained about our kitchen bin does not have a lid. It doesn't bother us, but we can see her point. 12. She complained about how we should have a coffee machine. Okay, this one would be great. 13. She allegedly reported a female colleague for wearing stilettos to the office, calling it inappropriate work attire. She also apparently reported the kitchen lady for wearing a Pikachu apron, saying it was unprofessional. Lol. 14. Bob has Down syndrome or some sort of intellectual disability. I don't think he was malicious or intentionally inappropriate. He probably doesn't have the capacity to think that it's not okay to touch other people. He didn't touch our new hire though. She just witnessed him touching another woman and immediately flagged him as a potential sexual harasser. One of my colleagues genuinely thinks she might have some mental health issues. Clearly, people commenting here are from far different parts of the world and come from various cultural backgrounds. It's interesting to see how some things are totally normal in one place but not okay in another. For instance, we've been eating at our desks for years, but apparently according to some of you, that's a no-no in some workplaces. Well, sadly, it's not okay for us anymore either. Now, genuine question here. Excluding the perfume thing, would you complain this much within 3 weeks of your initial employment? I personally think we should put up with some little things sometimes. Life is not perfect, let alone an office. Thanks again for all your input, and yeah, definitely going to HR on Monday. So at some point later, OP comes in with what they titled their final update and says, sorry, haven't been able to update the post earlier due to personal reasons. As per most of the suggestions here, I decided to report her to HR with my colleagues in our team. So on Monday morning, few of my colleagues and I had a discussion regarding this new hire behavior, and we decided to talk to our line manager first before HR. However, our manager couldn't come to work that day. Legit reason. The new hire also didn't come to work. She called in sick. We then changed our plan and decided to go to HR straight away. One of the IT guys joined us too, as our new hire had harassed him with a lot of unnecessary IT requests and demanded him to make a lot of changes in our IT system. So we offered him to join us to report her to HR. He suggested that rather than complaining about how she's annoyed everyone with her complaints, we should pretend to be concerned about her struggle to adjust to our environment and get HR to talk to her because we wanted her to have a good experience working with us. So, a few of us then had a meeting with HR, and guess what? HR people were also annoyed by her. They didn't say it directly, but subtly mentioned that she'd been lodging a lot of unnecessary complaints. We also suggested that she might need to see a psychologist as she might be having some sort of internal personal crisis, aka crazy. That led her to make all of these complaints. The IT guy asked if she showed any signs of these behaviors when HR interviewed her, and they said she asked a few detailed questions about the work culture here, and also complained about some stuff, parking, etc., but they didn't really think much at the time, and she had glowing reviews from her references, probably because they didn't want to get rid of her. The HR team said they will discuss this matter, and HR manager will have a one-to-one meeting with her the next time she shows up. However, that never happened because she sent her resignation letter the following day, along with a very long list of complaints and things she wanted us to change. The most ridiculous thing is she actually sent the same email to the big boss, complaining our workplace to be unsafe, unhygienic, non-inclusive, misogynistic, backwards, and radiating bad vibes. The HR lady who told us this found it strange that she didn't use the word toxic. One thing the HR found amusing was she mentioned how our workplace should provide a lot of free stuff such as bottled beverages, fruits, snacks, espresso coffee machines, dining vouchers, feminine hygiene products, petrol vouchers, etc. And I think the majority of the comments after this one just said that she sounds insufferable. Well, some people saying, she had a couple of valid points, but at the same time, she sounds insufferable. So what do you guys make of this situation? Let us know your thoughts down in the comments below. And just a huge thank you for being here today, getting involved in the stories, your love, your support, your time. It always means the absolute world to me. So thank you so much for being here, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one. Take care and much love.